for the Africa Investment Forum. The first edition was mooted by EFDB in March, just about 5 months ago, when the first meeting with the African global investors and bilateral agencies were held in the Ivorian capital, Abuja. Aha Konat, the president of the EFDB, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, at that event, for his thoughts about what is this Africa Investment Forum all about, which was called All Deals, No Talk. Let's recap that for you very quickly, and then you understand where we're going from tomorrow when the roadshow, the train, gets to Nigeria's political capital, Abuja, to talk to international investors, bilateral organizations, and others who will be part of this event. We're still ahead, November, in Johannesburg.
You're talking about an Africa Investment Forum that is all transactional alone. So we're wondering about how much do you think this forum should be able to increase the size of infrastructure funding gap for the African continent?
Well, first and foremost is the Africa Investment Forum is a totally different concept. It's a concept where Africa says it's tired of talking about a problem. It's actually going to do something about it. The fact of the matter is that you have capital allocation. Abroad, you have a lot of sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, and sovereign wealth funds that are all investing, outside of Africa, but not within Africa. In fact, the sovereign wealth funds of Africa themselves are also investing outside of Africa, which makes no sense. So what we are trying to do with this forum is to see how to attract the global pension funds and sovereign wealth funds to invest in Africa, not just in infrastructure. Of course, infrastructure is important, power, rail, ports, and so on, but also in the food and ag industry, which is going to be a huge sector for Africa. Why not in the pharmaceutical industry? And these are all the areas that we want them to invest in. The amount of money that's out there is mind-boggling. We have today, with institutional investors and commercial banks globally, over $120 trillion. If you take a look at Africa alone in terms of pension funds and sovereign wealth funds and the insurance pool of funds, going to be over $1 trillion. And so the key is, how do we attract that? If we attracted only 1% of the global assets under management, Africa will close completely the infrastructure gap that it has in terms of financing of anything between $68 billion to $108 billion a year. But the issue is risk. Investors want to have their risk reduced. And so what we are doing with this forum that is very, very unique, and as I said, no speeches, it's all transaction, is the African Development Bank is spearheading this. And we are creating what is called a mutualized co-guarantee platform. What that means is the African Development Bank with IFC, with World Bank, with Inter-American Development Bank, with European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, with also the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank and the Multilateral Guarantee Agency are going to help to de-risk projects. De-risk them in terms of project risk, market risk, financial risk, and political risk. And secondly is we are also going to engage with governments in terms of the bigger business and regulatory environment. We want investors to land in Africa like a plane that is landing on a well-organized runway, not just like a plane you're landing in a bush somewhere, and then after you've tried a while, you don't want to land there again. No, we want people to invest in Africa with a guarantee that the political environment will be stable, the policy environment is going to be predictable, and that the risks are going to be very well managed. I am fully convinced that we can close this infrastructure gap by being very, very innovative. And one thing I must say, this is the first time that all the multilateral development banks globally are getting together on one platform in any given part of the world to say we are going to mobilize private capital and also de-risk the investment. So
let's continue this conversation tomorrow from Nigeria's political capital, Abuja. I'll see you then.